Says the Nesivas Shalom in Nesivei Chinuch, Kol echad be'enei atzmai mechanach gadol. Many people in their own eyes, they consider themselves a really big mechanach. Ach b'soifei shel davar hamechunachim machishim es mumchiyusai. But at the end of the day, the children themselves will deny their expertise. Hashitais achadishais b'chinuch u'pedagogia einom ela mashechitshu kol echad me'erhurei liboi v'al pi tchunas nafshay b'hashpois tanoi hamokoim v'anoshim sheshoyer b'svivaisam. Many times the deep analysis and the concepts of their ideas of proper education were just merely according to their own teva. They had their own ideas that they came up with, comfortably influenced by his own natural tendencies and his surrounding environments. So we have to be careful that we don't develop chinuch ideas that are not proven and given to us by our gedolim. Next idea. He talks about regular mechanchim. B'tchilas haderech tzarech kol mechanech liyos mibechina mesuyemes gam shoiter shemalitz umachriach aval zeh hachelik einoi hachinuch atzmoi ela ka'akdama umavoi lechinuch. At the outset of the educational process, strict discipline may be necessary. The educator or the parent may need to temporarily assume the role of a policeman enforcing compliance. However, this is not a part of the process called chinuch. It is merely the means to create the proper climate for real education to take place. He says that there are many people, Rabbeim, they come in and they say, look at my classroom. Everybody sits straight and everybody is listening and, right, they're scared to move. And he says they're very good at preparing the climate for education, but that is not education. People think that's the end. That's just the beginning. That's the introduction. Nothing to do with chinuch. B'miuchad ra hadavar kisha mechanech makeu mitoich kas. V'alikol hakoyes ki'lu oived avodah zara. V'chol minei gehenim shoylet bai. V'nishmasei mistalekas mimenu. V'eich efsher lekavois shemehakas hazeh yitzmach chinuch la'Hashem l'teirasai. He says, it is especially evil to hit a child, I guess to punish a child, out of anger. Chazal say getting angry is equal to serving idols. And how could you expect that right in the middle of serving to an idol, you're bowing to the idol, and now you're going to do chinuch for Hashem, and you're going to have siyata d'shmaya? Impossible. You can't serve Hashem while you're angry. You can't have siyata d'shmaya while you're angry. And therefore, you can't ever parent effectively a child l'teiras Hashem by doing things when you are angry. Al pi derech haTorah bar, he says, it's clear, according beyond the shadow of a doubt, according to the Torah, she'imuchachem ipam lahanish baka, that if you are forced in a rare situation to hit, physical, harizeh davar shetzarech la'asoisoi b'yishuv das gadol v'rak l'loi kas v'chema. And he wrote this at least 25 years ago. Right? Even if you had to hit then, but no kas v'chema. I really want to see the family that is not embarrassed, and they would take a video while they're hitting their kids and say, you see how we hit? Calmly, without any kas v'chema. Very, very difficult to do. Most people, when they're doing the hitting or the punishing, would not be proud that it should be displayed at the next Torah Masorah convention. When your child does something wrong, this is the proper way to do chinuch. So if you have any anger, it's already something that you have to push off for a later time. I wish I could make a huge giant poster out of this. This is really one of my favorite Nesivas Shaloms. Chinuch amiti einoi lahachriach es hachanich b'kayach lehisnahagos toiva elo lahavi oisoi kidei sheyirtze bazeh. True chinuch, real chinuch, is not to pressure and force the child to act properly. It's to bring him to want to act properly. Right? I always say, you don't want your son to wear a hat. You want your son to want to wear a hat. You can force children to a certain point. That's not chinuch. Chinuch amiti is a long process to get them to want to be from. If you get them to want to be from, they'll do it even if you're not there with a baseball bat, even if you're not threatening them, and even if you're not alive. They'll want to be from. And when somebody is turned off for whatever reason, like trauma, abuse, and other things, at that point, if you pressure them to go ahead and be frum, you're actually causing them for longer to not want to be frum. So we have to slip into kiruv mode. We have to realize my job is that my children, from when they're born until they're adults, to influence them that they should want what I want. A lot of times parents make that mistake. The kid's not holding by something, even if they're frum, right? But they're not holding by that extra thing. We pressure and pressure and pressure. But in our door especially, inside, we're making their rutzin go out the window. We have to learn that our job is to create rutzain, to create willingness and wanting that the children should want what we are selling. They should want to be like us. In a different place he says, Kamarois, Noldois, Kashemarbim, Mafrizim, Ba'anisha, Yeser Alamida. So many terrible things come from using disproportionate or exaggerated punishments. First of all, overusing such tactics simply undermines the effectiveness of the tactic. Since the child gets used to berating him time after time, they roll their eyes. Again you're going to yell at me? Again you're going to scream at me? I see some parents, imagine that you never yelled, never raised your voice at your child. If you one time raise your voice, it'll have a major effect. Sometimes the parents are screaming and yelling so much, and I look at the kids. I'm affected by it, and the kids, nothing. They're used to it. So he says, when you are ma'anish, yeser al amida, then it becomes hergel. They get used to it. And also for a different reason. Secondly, any amount of negative reaction that is above the correct amount that the child deserves is purely abuse. It's achzarius. If from 1 to 10 they did a 3, and you punish like a 4, that 3 to 4 extra that you did is abusive. You're going over to someone, and that hurt you're giving a child for no reason. Would you give someone who did nothing wrong, a child who did 0, would you give him a 1? No, it's abusive. So when you give a 4 instead of a 3, a 6 instead of a 2, that's abuse. That's what he says. It's achzarius, midas achzarius. Many times we're nervous, we're anxious, we're in a rush, we're upset, we're frustrated, and when we give our din v'cheshbon, we give our judgment, forget about midas harachmanos. But even if you want to judge, we don't judge properly, and he says that's going to backfire. It's abuse. You are treating him this way merely because you are stronger than he is, and you're taking advantage of the fact that he's weaker than you. So you yell and you scream and you carry on, you embarrass him with impunity. The kid could be 6 years old, 8 years old. You could do whatever you want. What's he supposed to do besides call ACS? So you can get away with murder. You could scream, you can yell, you can punish, you could be abusive. But listen to what he says. This creates a terrible trait of cruelty to grow inside the child's essence. And once this bad trait is instilled in him, he will do exactly what you did to him. He will abuse those who are weaker than him, his younger siblings, or weaker friends. So many children of abusive parents, they swear, I will never abuse my kids, but they do, because it becomes a part of their essence. When you use your power and control in an abusive way, yeser al amida, or too often, and nobody could stop you because you're tati. What's this little kid going to do? What you're doing is you're teaching them. You're going to teach him to abuse those that are weaker than him. In a different place, the Nesivas Shalom says, these are beautiful nuggets. You cannot imbue Torah and Midas Taiva's good character traits into a child, rak im poischim lechanich es halev. Only if you first unblock, open up the heart of the child. V'haderech lezerak al yidei midas ahava. Only through love. You cannot imbue Torah or midas into your child if the heart is closed. If you're yelling and you're angry and you see him close up, he's not accepting, it won't work. How do you open someone's heart to accept your advice that you want to give him? One way, love. So I was thinking about a mushal. Imagine getting into your car and it just doesn't want to go. You pump the gas to try to get it to move. Doesn't work. You're pushing it, you turn the steering wheel, you yell at it, you kick it, you punch it, and it doesn't work. And finally you realize, you know why it's not working? I forgot to put the key in the ignition. Of course it can't work if it's not turned on. That's what the Nesivas Shalom is saying. Nothing is going to work in Chinuch unless you open up the heart. The key to the heart is Ava. Without Ava, the heart is closed. You can push, kick, scream, yell, coerce, punish. It's not going to work. Im hayeled rakia savor. If a child thinks sheha'av oy mechanech eino margisha ma'isai, that my parent or the mechanech doesn't feel me, if he thinks that, Ve'enim yoidim levate nafshay, and he doesn't know and understand my situation, who I am, and my feelings, ma'abdim es kol hashpa. You lose any possible chance to influence the child. Child has to feel, you know me. It's not a general rule, mishum lei plug, he gets me. Sometimes you have kids that are very difficult to get to a certain class, and the kid just feels, this Rebbe, he gets me. You can connect to certain people, gets me. If the kid doesn't think that this Rebbe or this parent gets me and understands me, you lose all the chance of being mashpia on him, as we had before from President Theodore Roosevelt. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Kishemar belachshav lifnei shekoveya es oifei hatipul ve'enoi misnag kishoyter stam mashrish imun beliboy shel hachanich ki hamachanech roitze rak b'toivosoi u'v'izpatchusoi. When you show the child that unlike a coarse, uncaring disciplinarian, you show him adrabah, you show him that you're careful to investigate the situation thoroughly before jumping to conclusions about how to respond and deal with him. This process will inject him with the feeling of trust in you, since he will realize that your main concern is truly his welfare and development. So something happens and you want to punish, you might be right. Show him, hang on, let me hear your side of the story. Let me think about it. Make it a process. Show him that I care about your feelings. I'm worried. I want to get it right. And then he'll accept the punishment. And also, you'll probably get it right. But if it's right away, boom, bam, punish, even if you're right, the kid doesn't feel that you really cared about him. It was kind of swift, It was like a mean judge. He might get it right, but the guy doesn't feel very good. We need our kids to feel good, even in the consequences, even with the punishment. In a different place he says, Aviras habayis v'holchei haruach hasherim boy, mischanchen beyoiser, ve'ein oimer ve'ein dvarim, ve'him goyim chinuchi rishon b'mala. The atmosphere of your home and the attitudes and the values that you create within it play the greatest role in educating your children, even without saying a word, without any verbal communications of your ideals. A child who grows up in the home of Rav Pam, of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, in a calm, loving home, not cynical, no anger, no dysfunction, that is the atmosphere that growth will happen. It's not so much about what we say to them and punishing and dealing. It's creating the atmosphere that a child should grow up into a happy Erlich Yid. And then he talks about, what about dysfunction and rebellion? Clear hadracha. Kishiroy in Eitzel Yelidrach, oy begil ha'espagros netiyah l'shchisus. If you catch a child, a young or adolescent child, is acting out immorally, he's corrupt, shchisus, internet, pornography, whatever terrible averis. It's like it's a fire burst out. The house is on fire. The kid is on fire. But if you're going to react to it by trying to douse it with words of hatred and physical beatings, it's like trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. What should you do? So he says what you should do. He doesn't say muchrachim lishleit al hayelid. You got to get hold of your own self, of your own ruach. Everybody says, get the kid, I'm going to get a hold of yourself. And do what? L'oyer a love, ahava v'chemla b'li gvul. Awaken within yourself love and mercy, b'li gvul, unlimited, even more, even more, to a greater degree than you exhibited toward him in the past. This kid needs more love, not less love. And this part is like meditating, because you don't need the kid for that. So something happens, say, excuse me, I'm not reacting. Excuse me, I have to go take care of something. Go to the Beis Medrash, or go to your room, and sit there and think about my kid who I love, and be ma'oyer towards the kid. Ahava v'chemla b'li gvul. That's what helps the kid battle the corruption. It's amazing, because it's not even a tipul, a treatment with the kid. Don't tell him about it. Don't talk to him. He gets energy. He just gets energy in his life, in his system, as we spoke about today at length. It's unbelievable. It's magical. Get a hold of yourself. It's painful. Of course it's painful. Get a hold of yourself. And do what? Think about how much you love this kid. you would die for this kid, you would do anything for this kid, and that's going to give him the strength to be able to overcome eventually. Amazing. Makar hakashiyim shel yeled bayosi hu tasbich v'tiskul. The source of a difficult child's problems are rooted in emotional problems, complexities, and frustrations. Nobody is misbehaving because he decided today, I want to be bad. I think getting thrown out of my class will be a great thing to put on my shidduch resume one day. That's not the story here. He says the root of the bad behavior, the root, not the exterior or the symptoms, the root is coming from emotional pain. And therefore, you have to know how to deal with emotional pain. If you heal the emotional pain, then you're going to get a healthier child. But if you're going to respond in the wrong way, then you're going to create more emotional pain. Yisabeches hayeled pi kama. He's going to have more emotional pain, which is going to lead to more problems. Makar hara hu bazeh shemechapes sipuk v'tanugim. Every person needs sipuk, satisfaction and pleasure in his life. And for some reason, he doesn't think he can do it by being Talmud HaChodesh or Talmud HaShavua. He's not able to be the nachas. And he wants sipuk and tanugim, and he's not getting it from good, so he's going to find it from bad. Kshe'en lo beheter, mechapes be'isur. V'choivas ha'ava mechanech. The duty of the parent and the mechanech, the teacher, is laseis loy hachamimus, to give him the varmkeit, the warmth that will heal the shchitus, the corruption inside of him. It's only the varmkeit that can improve the problem, the corruption that's growing inside of him. What do we normally, naturally do to somebody who is misbehaving? We take away the varmkeit. What, I'm going to be nice and warm and fuzzy and lovey? We have to teach him lessons. He says the root of the problem is a fever that you can heal with your varmkeit. Yesh chinuch ragil, a very big yesod that people mix up. Yesh chinuch ragil, there's regular chinuch, standard education. V'yesh chinuch bayosi. And then there's education needed for problematic children. V'loy harezeh kaharezeh. It's totally different. Yeled shezakuk l'chinuch bayosi miyuchad, v'noisem lo chinuch shigarti, mechanchim choitim beyeled. A child that needs special, problematic chinuch, and you give him regular chinuch, you do a grave injustice to the child. So when you see that the child is kisharaya eze chetu pesha kekotten kegadol, im maseu noivea misibuchi and nafshim. So if there's chinuch ragil, so you can deal with the chinuch ragil. But if we think that the reason, the cause of his bad actions is because of pain, sibuchim nafshim, emotional turmoil and pain, which we know that's what's causing our kids in our sugya for sure. So harikol maskana va'oinish shalei b'mokim anochem yisabech es hayeled bikama shebemuvan haruchni zekahoyreg nefesh mamish. Any misplaced discipline will immeasurably aggravate the situation, and in spiritual terms, this is literally like murdering him. Chazal tell us, "V'halachta b'drachav hadbeik b'midos v'shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu." It's a mitzvah say in the Torah to be like Hashem. But how should you be like Hashem? Says the Sifri, the Medrash. It doesn't say just like Hashem is very angry, v'chara af Hashem, you could be v'chara af. It doesn't say that, unfortunately. It says you want to know how to be like Hashem, to be Mekayim, the mitzvah v'halachta b'drachav. Mahu nikra rachum. Just like Hashem is called a rachum, af'ata havei rachum. Mahu nikra chanun, af'ata havei chanun. Go through all the Yud Gimel Midas, just like he's called all of these things. You should havei, you should become those things. What says the Nesivas Shalom? Shamashmois pozer liyois rachum v'chanun be'etzem. Umishum hadbek b'drachav v'lei rak hanhoga shal rachmanos mitam manushim. Don't just fake it till you make it. Don't just act nice. That's the beginning. Sometimes you got to do it, right? The idea is not to do it because, listen, I have to have rachmanos, I'm a good person. No, I'm doing it be'etzem, becoming a rachum. I'm working on myself to become an erech apayim. In the beginning, it's I want to wring the kid's neck. You know what? I'll wait 30 seconds. I'll be an erech apayim. I'll wait a day. But at the end, it's becoming an erech apayim. That's v'halachta b'drachav. The Nesivas Shalom tells us what love is all about. Avasa Yisbarach li Yisrael, the love that the Eibishter has for Yisrael, for us. Hi ahava she'eina tluya b'davar ve'eina b'teila la'olam. It's a love that is not contingent on anything we do, and therefore it is not batal la'olam. It can never ever be extinguished. What do we call that in America? Unconditional love. People don't like unconditional love, but we like it when Hashem gives us unconditional love. Eina b'teila la'olam. And he says in Pesach, b'matzav kazeh shehayu shekuim b'memteh shari tumah u'nesunim b'veis avodim. When we were in the memteh shari tumah, we were slaves. Si hashiflus berachnis v'gashmis. We're at the bottom of the world, spiritually and physically. At least he should have picked the chosen people, should have been the Arabian Nights, should have been the Egyptians. At least they were not slaves, but we were nobodies. We were nobody. We gave up a Feiru Bris Mila, Oiv the Avodah Zarah, we gave up being Yidden, and we weren't even Geshmaka Gute Goyim. We were nobodies. We were slaves in the bottom of the world. Si hashiflus berachnis begashmis. And what does Hashem call us? Kairei lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, b'ni b'chayri Yisrael. My firstborn. Lahidiyah to teach us. Shaloi mipnei maseyim hatoivim heim bonai. Elohim be'etzem b'ni b'chayri. U'memela ein nafka mina ma matzavam. He wanted to teach us a lesson that we need right now in our dar. If Hashem would have told us b'ni b'chayri Yisrael when we reached the Mem Tes Shari Kedusha, the Nun Shari Kedusha, that's when I would have thought. By Matan Torah, we reached the highest level. Hashem says, I'm so proud of you. B'ni b'chayri Yisrael. Then I would have thought, if I fall, I'm not b'ni b'chayri Yisrael anymore. If Hashem would have told us, b'ni b'chayri Yisrael, I love you so much, when we were on the Chaf Shari Tumah, so we would say, okay, as long as you're above the Chaf Shari Tumah. But as soon as you fall to Lamed Shari Tumah, it's over. So Hashem specifically waited till we fell. He didn't tell Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. He didn't tell us when we went into Mitzrayim. He waited until we were mamish at the bottom, and then he says, you know who you guys are? B'ni b'chayri Yisrael. See, when you tell your kids and they get 100, I'm so proud, I love you, it's wonderful, you have to do it. But they think, yeah, you love me, but not if I drop out of school. When our kids in pain, are at the bottom of society and we tell them, I love you the way you are, right? Then they know it forever. And your other kids know it also. If Tati and Mami love him and her, they really love us also. That's learning from Hashem. Why did he do this? Why did Hashem do this? People would say, it's not a good move, Hashem. If you're going to tell them, I love you no matter what, they have no incentive to be good. If you're going to tell your kid, I love you even if you go off the derech, why should he stay from? There's a family that came to me, a Chassidish family. He told me, Avi, you know what? I'm willing to hug my son and accept him even though he shaved his beard. But I'm not going to hug him in front of my other 8 boys, because if they see that Tati hugs you if you shave, they're all going to shave. I said, really? None of them want to be like you? You haven't managed to convince one of them that your derech is the right way to live your life? You think by your levaya they're going to be passing out shavers? And the reason why they're not shaving is because they're not going to get a hug from Tati? It doesn't work that way. Chinuch doesn't work that way. Hashem wasn't scared to tell us, I want you to know that no matter what you do, I will love you forever. That's not an incentive to sin. It's an incentive to do our best. That's a relationship that I want to be a part of. And then when I sin and I'm on the bottom of the world, it motivates me to pick myself up. I want to be close to Hashem because He's not giving up on me. But if the message would have been, if you sin, we're done. Once I would sin, I'm done. I'm never going to come back. And I wouldn't even want to be in that kind of a relationship. So if Hashem wasn't scared to tell the entire Klal Yisrael for all the dairies that I'm going to love you no matter what, we shouldn't be scared either. It doesn't motivate anybody to sin. It doesn't motivate people to go off the derech. I told my kids once, I was on the phone, I was telling a father about a hat, whatever. My kids were listening, not to their side, I wouldn't do that, but just to my side. I had to always talk in front of my kids because I'm pretty busy. And they like it. I told them, guys, if you want to take off your hats, I will love you 100%, right? And they all said, sure, we know that, right? I said, so you can. They said, we know. And they still didn't take off their hats. That means that they want to be the way that I brought them up to be. Baruch Hashem, Be'ezus Hashem. That's real chinuch. It means they want it. Because if they're only doing it as long as I'm here, as soon as I'm not here, they're not going to do it. But if I can give over the passion to be this way, if this is the way I feel we should be, and they actually say, I want to be this way, then I don't have to be monitoring them all the time. I don't have to be parenting them all the time. They're facing the same direction. What's the biggest musar that you can give to your child? Says the Nesivas Shalom. In Mishlei it says, Musar Hashem b'ni al timas, v'al takods b'teichachtoi. My son, despise not the chastening of Hashem. Don't despise when Hashem gives you musar, says Shlomo Melech, and don't get upset and frustrated when he corrects you. That's Pashut Pshat. Says the Nesivas Shalom, he brings down from the Sabek Hadisha from Slonim. Musar Hashem, you know what the biggest musar is from Hashem? B'ni, you're my son. Al timos, don't get famiist, don't get dirty. It doesn't pass for you. HaMusar HaChazik b'Yoyser she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu oimer leish Yehudi hu b'ni ata u'mikiven shehincha ben HaMelech al timos es atzmecha b'anhago bilti hoilemes. The best musar from Hashem is, b'ni, you're my son. You're a son of a king of all kings. You're a prince to the royal throne. Therefore, al timos, don't lower yourself and act in a disgusting way that is beneath your dignity. Im Yehudi margish be'etzem, be'emes, shuhu ben HaMelech, if we would feel that, v'Hashem elikov imoy b'chol matzav shuhu nimtza, ze yishmar alav tamid. If we realize that we are the son of Hashem and He's with us no matter what matzav we're in, if we're in Beis Medrash, if we're on the street, wherever we are, it doesn't matter. As he says in a different place, that Hashem is with us in Shamayim and Vatzia Sha'ol, Hineka. He says in Purim that Hashem is everywhere we are, and even Beveis Hatzlamim, even in church. Esther Hamalka said, Keli, Keli, Lama Zaftani. I don't get it. Why are you leaving me? What do you mean? Yobayach Hashverish, there was a tzelem. Hashem should leave you. He says, no, I know that you never leave me. I know that you're with me everywhere, even Beveis Hatzlamim. So came Lama Zaftani. This is the musar. V'zeu ha-musar ha-kloli haratzui b'chinuch. If this is the musar that Hashem is giving us, the feeling that you're my prince no matter what, so don't get yourself dirty. And when you get yourself dirty, you're still my prince, and let's get cleaned up. And I'm never going to leave you, and I'm never going to divorce you or emancipate you. It's forever, because Hashem, when He described our relationship, He could have picked marriage, much more loving and passionate, but you can get divorced. He could have picked friends. Why did He bedafka say you're my son? He picked the one relationship where it's forever. You can never become unchild. You can never not be a child anymore. That's bedafka why He said, Banim atem Hashem alikeichem. Says the Nesivas Shalom, V'zeu ha-musar ha-kloli haratzui b'chinuch. This is the best kind of chinuch, the best kind of parenting. B'ni ata, you're my child. Ata chashuv, you're important. V'lei matim liyeled chashuv v'nifla kamoicha lihisnag b'nag kach. It's beneath you to act this way. Regular parenting he's talking about. Off the derech is a different story. They won't respond to that right now. But it's building up in our children that they should feel, B'ni ata, ata chashuv. Every Friday night when we bench them, we should say, B'ni ata, biti ata, you're chashuv, you're important, you're not an orphan, you're not hefker, you have parents that love you. What about going into the sewer? Says the Nesivas Shalom, Imkara, if it happens, Sheben HaMelech nafal lebar shel shayfchim, v'alu litvayasham, when a king sees his child fall into a pit of sewage, and there's nobody else who can save him, so then the king knows, as HaMelech yodea shehi efshir l'smamei afilu rega echad, he can't even take 1 second to think, let me call somebody, he's going to drown. V'afilu hu lavush, b'levushei hamalchus, umuchter bekeser hamalucha. Even if he is wearing the crown and his royal clothing, hareu koifetz pnima lebar hashayfchim im bigdei malchusay kedei lahatzil es b'nai. He will go ahead and do everything and risk everything. His time, his money, his effort, his kavod, everything to jump into the sewer because I got to save my kid who's drowning. Says the Nesivas Shalom, beautiful, The Eibishter never went into Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim hoisa makim tamei ma'oid. Va'afilu nevuah loy hoisa yichaylis li Hashem l'rav to Moshe. When Hashem wanted to talk to Moshe, he said, go out of Mitzrayim. I don't go to Mitzrayim. Tatis say, I don't go to the club. I don't go to Vegas. The Shekhinah doesn't go to Mitzrayim. But it's so interesting. Aval kasha hayitzarich lahatzil as Yisrael. Oz. Ani v'lei malach. Ani v'lei saraf. Ani v'lei shliach. Ani Hashem b'chvayde v'atzmai. Came down to Choshech, to Marcus Bechiris. Hashem goes to Mitzrayim. I thought you don't go to Mitzrayim, Hashem. Under normal circumstances, I don't go to Mitzrayim. To save my child, I go to Mitzrayim. Hashem was willing, Kaviyachol, to lower his Shechina into a Mokim Tomei Ma'oid. Why? Because I'm a Tati. I'm not just Hashem, I'm also a Tati. I'm not just a Rosh Koil, I'm a Tati. Right? That's what you have to think. I'm not just, like we learned today from the Ramban, I'm not just Yisrael, Kisarisa. I'm not just the Rebbe of Klal Yisrael. I'm a Yaakov. I'm a father. And I have to take care of my kids. Says the Nesivas Shalom ZY, Hashem could have created a malach and a shliach. Why did he have to redeem us himself? Because if your kid is getting released from jail on bail and you send your driver to pick him up, it's not the same as when you take off your work, President Trump, the head of whatever business, multi-billion CFO, CEO, or learning, and you take off from your time and you go pick up your kid. I could have sent a shliach. I came myself. How does the kid feel? To show, let's think about this. It's not enough that Hashem loves us. He needs to show us. It's not enough you love your kid. You need to show it to them. This is how you show somebody you love them. Ani Hashem, ani v'lei malach, ani v'lei shliach, ani v'lei saraf. I'm doing this myself. Shloi golam ayidei malach, v'loi ayidei saraf. Ela HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvaydoi v'atzmoi. Yorad el toich avi avois hatuma. Kedei lahalos es Yisrael misham. He went himself down. Why? He wanted us to know, I did this for you. Amar Reb Shimon. Gedai lechibasan shel Yisrael shenigla HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'makom avodas kechavim u'v'makom tenufos u'v'makom tuma b'shvil legalon. Says Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, look at the love that Hashem has for us. How do you know how much He loves us? Not enough that He says, Ani Hashem, I love you. Not enough. Look what He did. He loves you so much that He went to the makom avodas kechavim. In the makom of the tenufos avodah zarah, makom tuma, Hashem went to the makom tuma to save us. Itzumay shel Chag Pesach, he says in Pesach, Gam kein midas hachesed v'ahava, k'demitzinu shekarim HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'ni b'chari Yisrael, Gam b'yoysam b'matzef ha'gerua b'yoysim, shekar memem t'shari tumah. K'di'isa b'medrash, the medrash says, Hayil v'chafetz HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'ga'alchem, because Hashem wants to redeem you, Einoi mabit b'gilulei avodah zarah shelachem, He's not looking at all the bad stuff that you do. Like Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei, Akol P'shoim, no matter what you do, no matter what sins you have, it can be covered over with love. And the message is for us. There are times that they're doing bad things. Akol P'shoim T'chasa Ahava. We have to cover over their P'shoim with our Ahava. We have to go and save them. And we have to say, it doesn't make sense, but you shouldn't. But there's no buts, because it's not a stranger. We're dealing with our own children.